All right, hello, my name is David Shire. Today we got a really big cast announcement for Big Brother 23. As you're going to learn about me, I really love reality TV. I really love reality TV news. I started watching Big Brother back in Big Brother 16. I have since gone back and watched some of the older seasons. Not a ton because Big Brother has a lot of episodes, but I've definitely went back, rewatched some of the older episodes, rewatched a lot of clip shows of some of the older seasons, like those 5 hour quick edit videos for the seasons. I definitely know a lot about the show, and I'm really excited as CBS is going to premiere their latest iteration of this. As you know, last year Big Brother 22 was the second all-star season of Big Brother, and it was a massive disappointment. I found that the ending of the season nearly saved it. I thought that Cody's decision to take out Nicole and all of that went down nearly saved the season for me. But I think it's a season that me and a lot of other fans would never want to see happen again. It was basically the whole thing. Cody coasted along, got into a big alliance, and he just completely dominated the game, unlike anything we've ever seen before. And hopefully, with this new cast, and hopefully with the new casting requirements that CBS laid out, the 50% people with POC or persons of colors, we'll see a lot more interesting stories. We'll see a lot more interesting gameplay. And we'll kind of get a return to form to the older seasons where there's a little bit more interesting social dynamics going on outside of the game itself. And so what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be looking at the cast. I've already done a little bit of research on the cast. I've listened to some other podcasts about different cast assessments. So if you see some of similar points, that might be why. I don't claim to be a completely original content creator, but this is going to be a very my point of view on the cast and see who we think are front runners, who you should take early on in your Big Brother drafts, who maybe you should leave a little bit on the outside of your Big Brother draft. And we're just going to kind of jump into it, have some real fun, and hopefully you'll take some things away from it. All right, so let's get started with this man right here. His name is Christian Birkenberger. It sounds kind of like a weird burger name, like some Australian bird that we've never heard of, and then it got made into a burger. That's a really stupid joke, but I'm going to keep it in there. He's age 23, so he's actually 2 years younger than me, which is very unfortunate. Now that I'm starting to feel a lot older. You know you're getting old when the people you're watching on reality television are actually being cast, and they're slightly younger than you, and I'm starting to feel that right now. Favorite past Big Brother moment was when Jeff used his famous coup d'etat power to backdoor Mr. Spectacular himself, Jessica. Great moment. It's clear to me that Christian, based off of the little that we know through this bio, that he isn't really the biggest Big Brother fan, and I think that can really hurt him in the game. This season, so far, just based off of general cast assessment, it does seem like there's going to be a lot more fans of the show coming in. And so what it kind of creates, in my mind at least, is that it creates this weird situation where any recruit that comes in actually has a pretty good, spot coming in, right? Because they don't know the game, and they're going to be pieces that some of the other stronger players are going to look to be picked up. So I think that Christian has a good chance of being picked up as by one of these stronger players, and maybe is a little bit overlooked. But also he could easily be a first boot. I can see that pretty easily. There's a lot of speculation that the 2 seasons that CBS is really promoting this year is Big Brother 16, and which they showed a lot throughout the seasons, or they're also showing a lot of Big Brother 14, because the twist this season, from what I've read in some articles, is they're actually going to split up the house into 4 separate teams, and Big Brother 14 was a season that attempted that to, middling results. But I think that ultimately that might be a good thing for the show, because of the fact that especially these last 2 seasons, have been really dominated by, even going back to season 20 actually, or even further back to season 12. I mean, there's been a lot of issues where the bigger alliances have just completely taken over the house and have completely run the game from start to finish. Last season was especially bad with that, due to the fact that the Big Alliance won every single competition, causing it to be such a boring season overall. And so I think that by dividing them up into 4 teams, there is a potential to shake things up. Hopefully, people don't realize that teams don't really matter and that they can kind of, pick up pieces in other teams. But we'll see how that goes for these first couple of weeks. Going back to Christian, I think that he seems like a nice enough guy. He kind of reminds me of the guy from the Circle season 2 who got booted the first week, whose name just completely escapes me. Hopefully, Christian's a little bit less forgettable, but we'll see as we kind of progress through the week. All right, next up is Xavier, and then I'm gonna totally butcher these last names. Prather. So I think that based on some of his answers here, I think his favorite house guest duo, who became best friends in the Big Brother house or had a showmance, he names Chilltown. And what's pretty interesting about his response, and that's been brought up a lot, is the fact that he actually seems to be keeping up with the current events. He says "R.I.P. to Chilltown." As you know, Mike Boogie has been in some legal trouble with Will, having stalked him. It's this really horrible kind of story that's happened, and so needless to say, the Chilltown Alliance is officially dead. It puts him in a little bit more of an upper echelon for me. The fact that not only is he naming kind of a more old school alliance, but the fact that he is keeping up with current Big Brother events to date makes me feel a little bit more confident in him. He does look physically strong, and sometimes that can be a weakness in the Big Brother house. People in the bottom who win some of these more like luck-based HOH competitions typically use their HOH to take out some of the more physical specimens in the house. But as we saw last season, Cody, and even going back to Jackson, Mickey, these big physical guys, as long as they can surround themselves in a big alliance, and as long as they're able to surround themselves with targets in front of them, they have made a big impact and made it far in the game. And Jackson and Cody's case actually winning the game. So I'm not too worried about that. He seems to be able to win a competition if he needs to, and so I would draft him pretty high. Going on further, the first of the 2 Dereks, Derek Frazier. I don't know. I don't have a good overall idea of Derek based off of some of what I'm seeing in the images and what I'm seeing based off of some of these answers here. It just seems like seems like a really nice guy. I could see him being put up on the block very early on. I think the most cool thing about him is that his dad is Smoking Joe Frazier, and I am a very there's a period in my life where I was watching this anime Hajime no Ippo, and I just got really obsessed with boxing. So the fact that his dad is Smoking Joe Frazier, and it's really cool to me. I would be totally fangirling out if I saw him. I'd just be asking him a million questions about your dad went to the Philippines and fought Muhammad Ali. Like, what was that like? There's a documentary that said it felt like hell for him. Is that true? I'd be totally fangirling out. And I think that's gonna maybe potentially serve him well. Some benefits that I'm seeing is that he does list out some things from older seasons. His favorite Big Brother moment is when Dick and Jen got into a heated argument and she threw out all of his cigarettes. A great moment in Big Brother history, and and again, when you see these older references, it does make you feel a lot better about them knowing the game and them kind of having a basic understanding of the game. Derek strikes me as somebody that might be put up on the block early and might go home early, but I think he has some upside to him. All right, moving on to is this our first woman? Yeah, I think this is the first woman that we're talking about. Hannah, we're just going to call her Hannah. I'm not even going to bother. Chada? Okay, see, I said I wasn't going to bother, and then I bothered anyway, but whatever. So I think a lot of people have pointed out that dancing is a big thing this season for whatever reason. looks like the Big Brother producers really wanted to step up their casting, and so what they did was instead of actually like looking for to make the cast over 50% persons of colors, they were just like, we'll keep it half and half, and also we'll just kind of find people who are really good at dancing, like a Channing Tatum type. With the dancing thing, you are a little bit more physical. I think she's a little bit more of a recent fan based off of some of these answers. Looking at it right now, saying that Devon and Bailey are her famous duo is a little concerning as far as like knowing what the show is. But again, we've seen people not know what the show really is do really well in the show, so I'm not too worried about that. She is referencing a lot of things that we know that they've been shown in Sequester. You know, Dan Giesling getting to use the veto on him, the blindsiding Shane. That's definitely one of the more recent things on their mind. I do find it kind of interesting that she brings up the fact that she talks about Vanessa and talks a little bit about Vanessa blindsiding Austin here. I thought that's kind of interesting. So even though she is possibly a more recent fan, I think she's more like maybe where I'm at with the show, where maybe she came in on season 16 has kind of watched up to that point, which is totally fine. I would pick her up in the middle tier just to see what happens. Again, some of these people, it's very hard to judge people based on photographs, based off of like the limited information we have on them. So once we get some more interviews, maybe I'll do a redux on this and try to give you a little bit more of my thoughts and maybe even do a tier ranking list. But we'll see what happens. I mean, we'll see. All right, next up on the list is Whitney Williams. I can say her last name because it's super easy. So she already starts off pretty strong with talking about Jeff and Jordan and talking a little bit more about the showmance side of things. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. It definitely seems like she's a little bit more of a Mayweather fan, so maybe coming into this game will be a little bit harder for her. She is the oldest person in the house, I believe, or second oldest, I should say. I shouldn't be. So that could be a little bit difficult for her as she continues. I mean, ideally, I think quote older people in the house only goes so far as Cliff. I think the oldest person here though is only like 34 years old. She's really giving some basic answers to these questions. There's not a lot here that I've seen or a lot that I've heard about Whitney. It seems like her draft stock's not super high. I think she maybe will be a bit more of a follower than a leader, and that's kind of where I'm at with Whitney at the moment. Named after Whitney Houston, though. That's a cute fun fact. All right, Travis Long. A lot of hate already on Travis Long. I'm going to have a little bit of a different opinion on Travis. Like, some people are already kind of writing Travis off as being the white guy that they draft that's really attractive looking. Hopefully he's not as much of a jack, you know, because he kind of reminds me of that a little bit with the Hawaiian shirt and stuff like that. Hopefully he's not like that bad. Being a bro in Big Brother has historically worked for some people. Really, the brigade was really more the brogade, right? So I could see it being a little bit. I could see him doing well enough, you know. I think that he'll make it to jury and then probably be booted off. The fact that he's listing Brett and Winston as his best Big Brother duo is really concerning, you know, because, you know, Brett, you know, did pretty okay on the show. Winston kind of flamed out super early, so it's not like the greatest duo. He'll definitely, I could definitely see him being outsmarted by some of the more savvy players in the game during the midpoint of the game, and maybe even taken out a little bit early. Like maybe what happens is kind of what happened to Austin and his bromance, whose name I can't forget. I think it was Hayden. I can't remember his name. But where he bros up with somebody and then like he gets put on the block early, kind of like Brett and Winston actually. But that's a much easier comparison. I'm thinking that that's what's going to happen with Travis. If he bros, ideally he would bro out with Christian. Both of them would get nominated for being bros, and then one of them goes. I think that's kind of what's going to happen. I'm going to call my shot right now, and if it happens, then you're going to have to look back on this video and give me $1,000. That's kind of my thought process on him, and I'm just going to move on because I have nothing else to say. All right, Tiffany Mitchell, age 40. We'll turn 41 on 8/5. I think Tiffany's the oldest person in this cast. Again, haven't heard a lot about her. Definitely still seeing some of these kind of more basic answers. Most excited to sleep in the HOH room. Actually, might want to try some slop. Confident, at least. Confident that she is going to win an HOH was a good mentality to come into come into it. Talking more about Dan. So much Cody and Derek. Yeah, yeah. Life motto: make it happen. Okay. Strategy for winning the game is to learn as much as I can about everybody else and keep my mouth shut. So it looks like she is going for more of a floater strategy. If she can get into a majority alliance and kind of float her way to the end, I could see her making it pretty far. I just don't see a lot here in terms of like somebody that's going to take over the game, which you kind of need to have a little bit of. However, again, she's one of these people that I look at and I think to myself, I need to see a little bit more. I need to see like an interview and stuff like that. So we're gonna hold out on Tiffany. All right, Sarah Stigall, aka Zoe Deschanel, is joining the cast of Big Brother 23. I mean, like that is like the most Zoe Deschanel thing I've seen. Like all you need is like a little bit of hipster glasses, and that's like a dead ringer for Zoe. Like who's that girl? It's Sarah. Yeah, sweet, quirky, self-driven. That's okay. Yeah, that's exactly how I describe it, just based off her. Also, very weird. Wrote Frank and Bridget as one of her alliances. A lot of people have talked about how weird that is. The fact that Frank and Bridget as an alliance weren't really that great. And then also writing Brittany and Ian, which is also very strange. But again, everybody has Big Brother 14 on their minds, having seen it in Sequester. It's just this Frank and Bridget one is really interesting. Maybe shows that she's more of a fan than we potentially might think based off some of these more basic answers. Favorite past moment: everything Zach Rance did. Again, like not a good sign. Zach didn't. I love Zach on the show, and he, as much as I loved his personality and the fact that he was just a total mess of a human being, I wouldn't say he's a great strategist. So I think that's a little bit concerning for Sarah. Though she is saying she's planning on floating in the game, which she wants to make everyone around her feel at ease, convince them I'm not a loyal person. Again, I think that's a good strategy. You know, I listened to a podcast about talking about Will's strategy, Dr. Will, and I don't want to compare Sarah to Dr. Will, but you know that was his strategy, right? He floated from power to power, moving along. Hopefully, that's her plan. To float between the two sides of the house. Otherwise, she is just going to be dragged along, and if she does make it to the end, nobody's going to vote for her in the end. I would say that she's a little bit more of a middling pick for me in my head right now, but we'll just keep moving on. All right, Kyland Young. Kyland. It seems like to me that he definitely is giving out the most. Like even just like reading this, it's like there's paragraphs upon paragraphs of information that he's giving out, which could be good. I would really vibe with him based off of his fact that seems like a real kind of nerdy guy. Seems like he's been to Comic-Con. I'd ask him a bunch of questions about that, and he just seems to have like a lot of energy, which could be really good in the Big Brother house. The problem that he could run into is that if you talk about yourself too much in the Big Brother house and give away too much information about yourself, and not really asking the other person questions, obviously that becomes a little bit of a detriment to you. I was watching a video with Dan where he talked about that, and he said what was the number one thing that he did in the Big Brother house? It was asking other people questions, asking them what their life story was, and connecting with them. And I could definitely see so far that Kylan could potentially be somebody that overshares and doesn't do enough time to connect with people. That being said, I think he does have some natural alliances already, thinking about Sarah. And Sarah, you know, could use him as well. And connecting with people with fandom and stuff like that is a very good way to connect with people. I would actually take him pretty high. I think that there is some downsides, but overall, I really like his overall vibe. And I'm excited to see what he's able to do. All right, Frenchie, Brendan French. Yeah, again, you know, seems like a nice enough guy. Older gentleman, 34. I think he's the oldest man. I could have to look back at to make sure for that. Gonna be another person with kids in the house, so I think he's gonna have he could potentially have a pretty good connection with Whitney, potentially, and so that could be Whitney and who else had kids? Now I'm trying to remember. It was Whitney and I want to say no. Tiffany. Yeah, so you could have a pretty good connection with those, with the parents in the groups. We saw in Survivor this year that the older people were able to really connect with the fact that they had kids. So if that's kind of a situation that arises in the house, that could be a very interesting situation. It could help Frenchie out and some of the other players that have children. Um, it seems that he is a little bit more of a fan of the show, which is good to see. Some people are already kind of hating on him. I don't really see any reason why to until we start hearing some interviews of him. It's going to be interesting to see what Frenchie could do. And he's again one of those people that I feel like I have not a ton to say about, but it will be interesting to see as interviews and more stuff come out about these people, how my opinion changes. All right, Derek Zhao is also on this cast. One Asian person, that's fine. That's whatever. Like, oh man, I was watching The Bachelorette and they had like one Asian guy, John, who got kicked off recently, and so I'm hoping a little bit better for Derek. I'm hoping for the best. Has awesome haircut. He kind of resembles me. Obviously, he's totally copying my hair because he's seen like my 1 or 3 videos that are on this channel and is just totally enamored with me. Obviously. Age 24, a year younger than me, lives in New York. Been really into chess and surfing. Okay, you know what? I'm starting. I was joking before, but maybe I'm gonna start really rooting for Derek. Also does mention Dr. Will and Mike Boogie. Does not seem to be keeping up with the current events. Doesn't say rest in peace to Chilltown, so that makes me a little bit nervous. But maybe he forms an unlikely relationship with Xander. They form Chilltown 2.0. Two of them just run roughshod in the house. That would be a very fun season. I'd watch that. Strategy for winning: build relationships with anybody house and slowly turn friendships into alliances, and then layer in unassailable logic reasoning to influence people's decisions. I think that's a pretty good answer. I think that building the relationship off of friendship first and then making it into alliance is really good. And I think the fact that he's talking about like making the logical arguments as well is good. He could be a bit of a game bot, which you have to kind of balance that, right? I think that Big Brother, Survivor are really about balancing like the logical side of people's brains and the emotional side of people's brains and trying to come up with the best click strategy for each and every person and trying to find that little key that unlocks somebody's heart to manipulate them. But I could definitely see a little bit of potential in Derek. I would pick him in the top half. I wouldn't say that I'd put him all the way on the top. I'm just not feeling it as much as some of these other contestants, but I definitely see a lot of potential here. All right, Christy. Yep, gonna skip the last name. Let's keep going. Former activities: dancing, a lot of dancing. I think even Derek had hip hop as one of his things that he did. Love Derek and Cody. I think that what's really interesting about her in particular is that she had a condition called alopecia, and I've actually known somebody that's had that, and she decided to go bald. And I think that that's going to be a really powerful story that's going to be shared on Big Brother, and I think it's going to help her connect with some people. Just sharing that story, having that kind of emotional bond with people is very good in the house. I think that she'll kind of fall into one of these alliance spots and then maybe get picked off. But I don't have like a lot to say about Christy overall, but I think that she's maybe bottom to middle tier player. That's what I'm gonna put up out there. She loved Haley, which is kind of nice. Not a lot of Haley love from Big Brother 20. Brittany D'Angelo. Very fun name of the spelling of Brittany. I've heard a lot of different things. People are saying that she gives off a real Rachel Berry vibe. I was saying that she kind of reminded me of Aubrey a little bit from Survivor Co. Wrong. Just like the overall vibe that she's giving off. She just seems like a normal person, but some people are a lot meaner than me, and I'm pretty mean sometimes, so. But we'll see. Favorite house guest duos. Named 3 people from the past couple seasons. Derek and Cody being the youngest. So not great. She's really excited about the competitions and really excited to play the game. So that does make me a little bit more excited. She doesn't seem to want to throw competitions, which that's always a bad sign to me. That's like actually a really bad sign to me that maybe they don't understand that you don't understand the game, because throwing competitions, as you know, is a good strategy in Big Brother. Being less of a threat, especially in those early weeks, could be a really good thing. I could definitely see Brittany rising to power pretty early on and then eventually flaming out. It's a story as old as Big Brother time. So based off of some of these things, I'd actually put her pretty low on the totem pole. She definitely talks a big game. She wants to make big moves, but it's going to be hard to make big moves if you're not near the end of the game because you've won too many competitions. So we'll see. I'm throwing a lot of shade at Brittany. I don't know why. All right, Brent Champagne. Oh man, I've had a lot of fun hearing about Brent Champagne. I think the one thing that everyone's been really focused on is what is it? Life motto: I'm here for a good time. A long time. I love it. I love it when a contestant on one of these reality shows is just here to not really care, not really play the game. Again, I would need to see more to see how likable he is. That would be the real. This would be the real test for me, for Brent, whether or not he actually succeeds in the game or whether or not he fails. Based on some of the things in his profile, I love that quote. It does seem like, though, that he is a more recent fan and maybe is a little bit more of a recruit. But if he is likable enough, I'm sure he'll do fine in this game. Asa Aswam? Asa. I shouldn't even try saying these last names. I'm just terrible. A lot of people really high on Asa. She seems to be the one person that a lot of people are already like gonna be making stan accounts on Twitter. And you know what? I'm all here for it. If you already fallen in love with one of these house guests, knowing nothing about them, go ahead. I mean, what am I doing? I'm judging these people based off of a profile picture and answers to a newspaper magazine. So it's like, what am I doing? She's already saying that she's really looking forward to competing in OTEV, so it's good that she has the knowledge that some of these competitions are going to be coming back, and that she's already preparing a little bit of maybe some strategies on how to win those competitions. That shows some good stuff. Talks about Keisha's birthday, which I love because Keisha's birthday is one of my top 5 moments in Big Brother history, and I could definitely see right away why people really love her. Strategy of winning the game: spot the power players early and annihilate or divide them one by one. Play for myself, not the house. Hoping animal appearance. There's a lot I love here. A lot of big grandstanding statements. The fact that she is not focused on showmances, so boys, get on out of here. I'm feeling pretty good about Asa. If there was going to be a top, I think she would be one of the top women to go in this draft, just based off of what I would be thinking. Actually, that's tough because I also really like Alyssa Lopez, and some people are kind of writing her off because of the fact that she's already said that she's into weightlifting, video photography, video editing, and that she has like a swimsuit line coming out after the show. I don't know, like whatever. But she does say that she has been a fan of the show and she's been watching religiously since Big Brother 11, and she has applied 4 times, separate times on the show. And so I think that overall, I think that she has a good understanding of the game, hopefully. And she also really does this really interesting thing, like, what's your strategy for the game? My strategy for winning the game is to win the very first HOH. I think the first HOH is the most important one. I would then be able to align myself with powerful physical and mental players, but also try to make final 2 alliances with somebody outside of that. And I think that is an excellent answer. As we have seen that's basically what Cody said during night 1 of Big Brother 22, the fact that he won that HOH, and then how he utilized that HOH to align himself with the bigger players like the Tylers, like Nicole, like Enzo, and the fact he was able to utilize his HOH. Nicole using a very similar strategy in Big Brother 18 does show a really deep understanding of the game. It really does show that this person is a contender. And next to Asa, I would actually draft Alyssa Lopez. There's a lot I really like about her answers. Hopefully she doesn't flame out. Hopefully we'll see a fan go far in this iteration, and hopefully that will encourage casting to cast more fans of the show onto the show, because I think it's better for the show's health. Yeah, So overall, I'm really excited about this cast. I think it's going to be a really interesting season, and I hope that you join me for my Big Brother coverage as we continue forward. All right, bye.